Shalom, Yasharala, giving all praise and glory to the Most High Power of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. He's worthy to be praised for everything. Glory to be to His holy name. As always, I'm going to start off with Colossians 3:17. And whatsoever you do in word or deed, do all by Hashem Mashiach Yahushai. Giving thanks to the Most High and the Father by Hashem Mashiach Yahushai. So all that we say is going to be in the name of the Lord and Savior, Mashiach Yahushai, who the world falsely calls Jesus Christ, because the J was invented in approximately 1630 AD. So you know his name couldn't be Jesus, but you know, for those that want to use his name as Jesus, then who they set up as Jesus Christ was a so-called white man, Caesar Borgia, you know, and Warner painted the last picture of the Jesus Christ that you're looking at right now, making all this money for us. So it's something that we need to consider and look at who you really calling on, you know. But that's your preference. That's your preference. I'm going to say Hamashiach Yahushai, which means the anointed Savior. In the name of the anointed Savior, we thank the Most High Power of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Jacob being the forefather of the 12 tribes of Israel for everything. He's worthy to be praised for everything. He woke us up this morning, right? So I want to look at today, I want to go into how, you know, everything got to be a balance. And the Most High is a balance. He say, Jacob have I loved. He loved us as the children of Israel, the 12 tribes of Israel. And he also abhorred us because we wasn't right. We didn't do right by him. He said, follow me and I'll bless you to be above all nations. But we didn't. So therefore, he abhorred us. For what? For breaking his law, statutes, commandments. But there's a balance to everything. You see, and the things that we do not consider, the Most High considers. He considers those things that we don't consider. Starting with ourselves, you know. Loving yourself. Love thy neighbor as thyself. So you start with yourself, how you feel about yourself. If you love yourself, how you can't love someone else? Especially your own nation. If you hate your brother, the scriptures say you are a murderer. It's just like pulling your 9 out and poof, shooting everybody that you hate. Straight up. When the Most High loved him. How you know who the Most High love and who he don't love? You gonna make that decision? You gonna be the mind of the Most High? I don't think so. So let's look at this. Let's look at Ecclesiastes 3:1. It said, to everything there is a season. And I'm here because there's got to be a balance. You know, like we warriors, at the same time, we got to be humble too before the Most High. He want a broken and contrite spirit. And I'm going to show our ancestors how they show us how to be humble. They were humble, even though they were warriors, but they still had to bring that humility before the Most High. Most High name is jealous, so you more powerful than him? You got the mind of the Most High? He gave us mercy and grace. Do you give your brother and sister mercy and grace, or do you have somebody that you done picked out that you hate, that you don't like? So I say we're not a group, we ain't no organization, we're a nation of Israel. You need to stop letting them call us a group, an organization, a church, a club, or whatever it is that they want to say. We are the nation of Israel. The Most High told our forefather Jacob when he changed his name to Israel, you are a nation, and a company of nations gonna come out of him. Nations, didn't say no group, didn't say no organization, didn't say no club, or none of that. You understand? And we are the church. The people of the 12 tribes of Israel are the church, you see? So we're gonna look at how our ancestors had humility, but they were great warriors. See, there's a balance. You know, that's why I said, to everything there's a season and to a time to every purpose under the heaven. A time to be born and a time to die. A time to plant and a time to pluck up that which is planted. Harvest. A time to kill and a time to heal. A time to break down and a time to build up. A time to weep and a time to laugh. A time to mourn and a time to dance. You see, this is a balance. You this way and you that way. You see? Depending on the situation. A time to cast away stones and a time to gather stones together. A time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing. A time to get and a time to lose. A time to keep and a time to cast away. You see? A time to rend, tear your clothes, and a time to sew. Sew them up. A time to keep silent, be quiet, shut up, and a time to speak. A time to love and a time to hate. You see, there's a time to love, there's a time to hate. a time of war and a time of peace. You see? So that's a balance there. So that's why I want to go into our ancestors and show for the humility that they had. Even though they were mighty men and warriors or mighty women, you see? But they still had humility. And that's part of what we need to look at, because you can come into this truth and the only thing you deal with the hate. I know, because I was there. But then I learned this balance. And if you think you can make it mean something different, then I'd like to hear it. Not boasting at all. I'm just, I'll deal with scripture breakdown. So I'm going to show you our ancestors, and I'm going to show you the humility that they had. Even though they were strong warriors and they had to deal with whatever we had to deal with at the time of their life. These are the examples that we have to go by. What else do we have to go by? Your own vain thinking? How you feel? A lot of you brothers coming in here, you don't really know how to apply this balance. And it's more than just those that are amongst you. This is for our whole nation. This is for our whole nation. Not just whoever it is that's among your congregation or whoever it is that you dealing with. Because you're going to find out when you hate on that little one, as my Sheikh Shai said, their angels are before the Most High all the time. And he's going to deal with you. You want to mess with one of his little ones. He said, better for you to put a millstone around your neck. That's a great boulder. And cast it into the sea. Now, which one of those Israelites that you dislike could be a little one? That's your judgment. That's why you got to look at this for what it is. Y'all think y'all gonna make a judgment call? Y'all mind is the Most High's mind when he say this ways and thoughts are not our ways and thoughts? Consider your ways. So let's start with Abraham. Go to Genesis, 18th chapter. These are the signs of humility that the Spirit is bringing to show us an example of what they gave us. Genesis, the 18th chapter. So this is the time that Abraham's praying for those of Sodom and Gomorrah, right? Listen to what he said in verse 27. Concerning, we dealing with humility. This is what he said in verse 27. And Abraham answered and said, behold, now I have taken upon himself, Abraham himself, to speak unto the Most High. Listen to what he said he is, which am but dust and ashes. He said, I'm nothing but dust and ashes. Peradventure, perhaps, there shall lack 5 of the 50 righteous. Wilt thou destroy all the city for lack of 5? And he said, if I find there 40 and 5, I will not destroy it. Right? So we went down the line to even 10 in verse 32. And he said, oh, let not the Most High be angry, and I will speak yet, but this once. Peradventure, perhaps 10 shall be found there in Sodom and Gomorrah. And he said, I will not destroy it for 10's sake. Right? So, let you know that Abraham was had humility. He said, ain't nothing but dust and ashes. Come on, before the Most High. You think he was screaming at the Most High? When he say he's nothing but dust and ashes? This is our forefather, Abraham. Look at Jacob. Genesis, the 32nd chapter. We looking at humility from our ancestors as the Spirit brings it forth. Genesis, the 32nd chapter, and verse 10. This is what he said. Let's start at verse 9. And Jacob said, O Most High of my father Abraham, and power of my father Isaac, the power which saith unto me, return unto thy country and to thy kindred, and I will deal well with thee. Listen to what he's saying as far as humility. He said, I am not worthy of the least of all the mercies. You hear that? I am not worthy of the least of all the mercies. And mercy is not getting something you do deserve. And of all the truth. We know what the truth is. Psalms 119, 142. That righteousness is an everlasting righteousness, and thy law is the truth, right? Which thou hast showed unto thy servant. For with my staff I passed over this Jordan, and now I am become two bands. You know, he had to separate his family in two bands, two different ways. He said, deliver me, I pray thee, from the hand of my brother, talking about his brother Esau. You read about him in Genesis 25, 25, and 26. From the hand of Esau, see? For I fear him, lest he will come and smite me, and the mother with the children. You see? He had 4 wives that had the children, making up majority of the 12 tribes of Israel. You see? So the main thing I'm looking here is how he said in verse 10, I am not worthy of the least of all the mercies that come from the Most High, and of all the truth which thou hast showed unto thy servant. The truth, the law, statutes, commandments of the Most High showed unto Jacob. He say, I ain't worthy. Just humility. Look up our forefather, Joseph. Genesis 41. Let's look at Genesis 41 and 14. Looking for our forefather Joseph to bring forth an understanding of Pharaoh's dream, right? Genesis 41 and 14. We're going to concentrate on verse 16. Then Pharaoh sent and called Joseph, and they brought him hastily out of the dungeon. He was in prison. And he shaved himself and changed his raiment and came in unto Pharaoh. So, looking like, presentable before this Hamite Pharaoh, Egyptian, so-called African. And Pharaoh said unto Joseph, I have dreamed a dream, and there is none that can interpret it. He dreamed a dream, say his musicians, all those suckers couldn't interpret the dreams. And I have heard say of thee, somebody told me of you, that thou can understand a dream to interpret it, right? So now he's putting the understanding in his mind that Joseph can interpret dreams. This is what Joseph says. And Joseph answered Pharaoh, saying, it is not in me. See, he ain't taking no credit for the things that he could do. But what he say? It is not in me. The Most High shall give Pharaoh an answer of peace. And Pharaoh went on to tell him his dream, right? But you see how he took the recognition of himself away from allowing Pharaoh to exalt him? Who he give the power to? The Most High. It's the Most High that's going to give him peace. in understanding the dream that he had. He didn't take credit for it. Look at Exodus, the 3rd chapter pertaining to Moses. We're going through our ancestors tonight. How they had humility. Exodus 3 and verse 9. Now therefore, behold, the cry of the children of Israel is come unto me. The Most High said he heard our cry. And I have also seen the oppression wherewith the Egyptian oppressed them. So I see the oppression where the Egyptian oppressed them. Come now, therefore, and I will send thee unto Pharaoh, talking to Moses, that thou mayest bring forth my people. Who? When you see my people in the Bible, the children of Israel, who we are, all 12 tribes, out of Egypt, right? Listen to what he said. Listen to what Moses said. We're dealing with humility. And Moses said unto the Most High, who am I? Who am I? That I should go unto Pharaoh, and that I should bring forth the children of Israel out of Egypt? Say, who am I? I ain't nobody. That's what he said. I ain't nobody. Who am I? That I should go and bring forth the children out of the Most High out of Egypt. You see? This ain't for everybody. Because a lot of you out there is too prideful in your mind and spirit and soul to be able to hear this and change. But you better hear what it is that's coming out in the spirit of the Most High to please him. That's what it's all about. You can please man all you want to, but man ain't going to bring you into the kingdom of the Most High. You better understand and understand this, believe this. Listen to what Moses said. And Moses said unto the Most High, who am I that I should go unto Pharaoh, and that I should bring forth the children of Israel out of Egypt? And he said, certainly I will be with thee, encouraging him. And this shall be a token unto thee that I have sent thee. When thou hast brought forth the people out of Egypt, ye shall serve the Most High upon this mountain. See? Okay? So, that's Moses. Let's go to Exodus 4, next chapter, 4. And let's look at verse 9. We're going to concentrate on verse 10. And it shall come to pass, that's the future, if they will not believe also these 2 signs that he gave Moses, you know, told him put his hand in his bosom, took it out, it turned leprous, white as snow. Put it back in his bosom, turned like his other flesh, right? So he said, and if shall come to pass, if they will not believe also these 2 signs, neither hearken unto thy voice, talking about we the Israelites, that thou shalt take a water of the river and pour it upon the dry land, and the water which thou takest out of the river shall become blood upon the dry land. So he say, put your hand in your bosom, take it out, it's gonna turn like this side of your hand, that's leprosy. The bottom of your feet, that's leprous. This side turn just like this side. Then you say, hey, take the water out of the river and pour it on the dry land, it's gonna turn to blood. 2 signs, right? This is what Moses said. And Moses said, verse 10, and Moses said unto the Most High, to the angel of the Most High, O my power, I am not eloquent. I'm not eloquent, right? Neither heretofore, nor since thou hast spoken unto thy servant, but I am slow of speech. He stuttered, and of a slow tongue. I mean, he was stuttering. You know what I mean. He stuttered. This is what he said. And Moses said unto the Most High, O my power, I am not eloquent. I'm not an eloquent speaker. Neither heretofore, nor since thou hast spoken unto thy servant, but I am slow of speech and of a slow tongue. And he stuttered. And the Most High said unto him, who have made man's mouth? Who made your mouth? And who maketh the dumb, or deaf, or the seeing, or the blind? Have not I the Most High? Now therefore go, and I will be with thy mouth, and teach thee what thou shalt say. This is what you got to look at. Most High is all magnificent, all power. He said, I'm going to make your mouth speak like it never spoke before. Understand this, right? So he said, hey, now therefore go, and I will be with thy mouth, and teach thee what thou shalt say. And he said, O my power, send, I pray thee, by the hand of him whom thou wilt send. And the anger of the Most High was kindled against Moses. He got angry, and he said, is not Aaron the Levite thy brother? See, that's why these are examples that we're looking at so that we don't get caught up in doing the same things that our ancestors did that was made the Most High angry. We got to make sure we're doing the right thing so that whatever we do will please the Most High. You see? So he tell them, like, you hear what he said? Now therefore go, and I will be with thy mouth, and teach thee what thou shalt say. Right? He said, I'm going to be with your mouth. I know you stutter. He said, I made your mouth. I made you the way you are. So I know you stutter. He said, I'm going to be with your mouth. I'm going to make your mouth speak the right, eloquent way. Enough to tell his brother, looks like he's saying, verse 14, and the anger of the Most High was kindled against Moses. And he said, is not Aaron the Levite thy brother? See, I know that he can speak well. And also, behold, he cometh forth to meet thee. And when he seeth thee, he will be glad in his heart. He will be glad in his mind to see Moses. And thou shalt speak unto him, and put words in his mouth. And I will be with thy mouth. I'm going to be with your mouth, Moses. And whatever I'm telling you, you tell Aaron. And with his mouth, I will teach you what ye shall do. All through Moses, telling Aaron, his brother, what to do. And he shall be thy spokesman unto the people. And he shall be, even he shall be to thee instead of a mouth, and thou shalt be to him instead of the Most High. He gonna have to go through Moses in dealing with what the Most High is saying. That's what he's saying. You see? So this is what it is that shows how you have humility before the Most High, or the Most High bring his anger, and you're going to be dealt with. Now, let's go to our patriarch, King David. Go to 2 Samuel. 2 Samuel, the 7th chapter. Like I said, we're going through our ancestors and looking at how they show humility. And even though, you know, you're looking at some make excuses, the Most High got something for you. You want to make an excuse? He got something for you. Like you see what he did with Moses. Moses was the meekest man in the world. He said, hey, don't talk against my servant Moses. He dealt with him mouth to mouth. He was dealing with him. That angel was dealing with him right what the Most High was saying. No dreams and no visions. Straight with what the Most High said. That's what he got. So we're going to 2 Samuel, the 7th chapter. And let's look at verse 18, right to the point. Then went King David in and sat before the Most High, and he said, who am I, O Most High power of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob? Jacob being the forefather of the 12 tribes of Israel. And what is my house that thou hast brought me hitherto? He said, who am I? In other words, I'm nobody before the Most High. And this was yet a small thing in thy sight, O Most High Power. But thou hast spoken also of thy service house for a great while to come. And is this the matter of man, O Most High Power? And what can David say more unto thee? But thou, O Most High, knowest thy servant. See? So David said, who am I, O Most High? And what is my house? What is my family that thou hast brought me hitherto? You know, who am I? And who is my family that you choose in me? David was a man after the Most High's own mind, own heart, which would fulfill all his will. 1 Samuel, the 23rd chapter. And verse, let's see, 1 Samuel, the 23rd chapter, and verse 14. And David abode, we looking at humility, y'all. And David, this King David, abode in the wilderness in strongholds, and remained in a mountain in the wilderness of Ziph. And Saul sought him every day, but the Most High delivered him not into his hand. You see? That's why David said, who am I? Most High said, you're very important to me. But you see how humble he was? Who am I? And David saw that Saul, our first king, Benjamite King Saul, was come out to seek his life. Saul wanted to kill him. And David was in the wilderness of Ziph, in a wood. See? And Jonathan, Saul's son, arose and went to David into the wood and strengthened his hand in the Most High, strengthened his ability to believe in the Most High. Have faith in the Most High. And he said unto him, fear not, for the hand of Saul my father, this Saul's son, Jonathan. King David and Jonathan was close. He said, fear not, for the hand of Saul my father shall not find thee, and thou shalt be king over Israel, and I shall be next unto thee. And that also Saul my father knoweth. You see, they knew that King David, well, David was going to be king after Saul was put to death, which happened. And they too made a covenant, a contract agreement before the Most High, and David abode in the wood, and Jonathan went to his house. See? We see the humility in David. 1 Samuel 18 and 18. Still looking at King David. And David said unto Saul, who am I? Have we heard this already? David said unto Saul, who am I? And what is my life? Or my father's family in Israel, that I should be son-in-law to the king? Say, who am I that you can give your daughter to me? But it came to pass at the time when Merab, Saul's daughter, should have been given to David, that she was given unto Adriel, the Maholathite, to wife. She's supposed to been given to David. He gave it to somebody else, some other man. And Michal, Saul's daughter, loved David. And they told Saul, and the thing pleased him. Look, he knew about his daughter. So he said, please Saul to know that Michal, she loved David, right? Listen to what it says. And Michal, Saul's daughter, loved David. And they told Saul, and the thing pleased him. He know how her spirit is. You know, you got daughters and you got sons, whatever. You know how their spirits are, right? This and that, this. And Saul said, I will give him her. Listen, that she may be a snare to him. I'm going to give him my daughter, Michal. A snare means she going to be a trap, a hindrance to him. And that the hand of the Philistines may be against him. Wherefore Saul said to David, thou shalt this day be my son-in-law in the one of the twain. And Saul commanded his servants, saying, commune with David secretly, and say, behold, the king hath delight in thee, and all his servants love thee. Now therefore be the king's son-in-law. You know, take on Michal, Saul's daughter, so she can vex him. And he knew. He said, yeah, she like him all. That's right on time. And Saul commanded his servants, saying, commune with David secretly, and say, behold, the king hath delight in thee, and all his servants love thee. Now therefore be the king's son-in-law. And Saul's servants spake those words in the ears of David. And David said, seemeth it to you a light thing to be a king's son-in-law, seeing that I am a poor man? Hear this? I'm a poor man and lightly esteemed. So I ain't nobody. Remember, who am I? Remember, he said, who am I? But the Most High raised you up. He said, I'm a poor man and lightly esteemed. And the servants of Saul told him, saying, on this matter spake David. Told King Saul what King David had said. And Saul said, thus shall you say to David, the king desireth not any dowry, because that's what a man had to give the father to marry his daughter, a dowry. Usually 50 shekels of silver. The king desireth not any dowry, but in 100 foreskins of the Philistines. 100 foreskins of the Philistines. You got to kill 100 Philistines. Remember, he said in verse 21, and Saul said, I will give him her, who is Michal, his daughter, that she may be a snare to him, and look, and that the hand of the Philistines may be against him. Right? So now, his whole plan is for David to go out and kill, in verse 25, 100 foreskins of the Philistines. He got to kill 100 Philistines to be a son-in-law, to be avenged of the king's enemies, right? But he's thinking that one of these Philistines going to kill David. But Saul thought to make David die by the hand of the Philistines. And when his servants told David these words, it pleased David well to be the king's son-in-law. And the days were not expired. Wherefore David arose and went, he and his men, and slew of the Philistines not only 100, but 200 men. The same one that says, in verse 18, and David said unto Saul, who am I? Who am I? And what is my life? Or my father's family in Israel? You know, that I should be the son-in-law to the king? But he was a warrior. So I say there's a balance here. What did he say? Verse 27? That's humility right there. But at the same time, he's still a warrior. Wherefore David arose and went, he and his men, and slew of the Philistine 200 men, not 100, but got 200 men. And David bought their foreskins, and they gave them in the full tale to the king, that he might be the king's son-in-law. And Saul gave him Michal, his daughter, to wife. And Saul saw and knew that the Most High was with David, and that Michal, Saul's daughter, loved him. And Saul was yet the more afraid of David. And Saul became David's enemy continually, every day. He woke up, he was thinking about killing King David. Well, he wasn't king at this time, but Saul was king. But that's just figure of speech that I'm, so used to saying King David, so like it. He wasn't king yet, because Saul was the king. And Saul was yet the more afraid of David, and Saul became David's enemy continually. See, so Then the princes of the Philistines went forth, and it came to pass after they went forth that David behaved himself more wisely than all the servants of Saul, so that his name was much said by. That's why the women started singing, hey, David killed tens of thousands, Saul killed thousands, David killed tens of thousands. So that made him mad too. Jealous. 1 Samuel's 26. 1 Samuel 26. We're looking at humility. And 20. Now therefore, let not my blood fall to the earth before the face of the Most High, for the king of Israel is come out to seek a flea. King Saul, the king of Israel, have come out to seek a flea, as when one does hunt a partridge in the mountains. Say, I'm not but a flea. You know how all a flea is. Talk about himself. 2 Samuel 5 and 20. 2 Samuel 5 and 20. Hopefully, one of these verses can touch you to realize there's a balance you got to have before the Most High. Everything is being recorded. 2 Samuel's 7 and 20. So Nathan is speaking to King David. Look at verse 17. According to all these words and according to all this vision, so did Nathan speak unto David, right? Then went King David in and sat before the Most High, and he said, who am I? Once again, who am I, O Most High Power? How many brothers you know, or leaders that you know, have this spirit? And say this, who am I? Who has that humility? Who would say they're more powerful than King David? Talking to you leaders out there. You leaders of these camps and pastors and ministers and so forth. Listen to what King David said. Then went King David in and sat before the Most High. And he said, who am I? O Most High Power of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob being the forefather of the 12 tribes of Israel. And what is my house that thou hast brought me hitherto? What he's saying? Say, who am I? And who is my family? Maybe he said, I'm just a poor man. Who am my family that you brought me hitherto? David was a mighty man. You see what he said, get 100 foreskins of the Philistines. He went out there war and got 200. When it come down to humility, that's that balance, y'all. That's why we got to look into our ancestors. They give you the keys here. What works? What's beautiful before the Most High? What's marvelous before the Most High? That's humility. That's him being as humble as you could be. Understand this, when you're not in front of the Most High, answer that question. That's why we got to think. Then went King David in and sat before the Most High, and he said, who am I, O Most High? And what is my house that thou hast brought me hitherto? And this was yet a small thing in thy sight, O Most High Power, but thou hast spoken also of thy servant's house for a great while to come. And is this the manner of man, O Most High Power? And what can David say more unto thee? But thou, O Most High, knowest thy servant, you know who I am. For thy word's sake, and according to thine own heart, hast thou done all these great things to make thy servant know them. Wherefore, thou art great, O Most High Power. But there is none like thee, neither is there any power beside thee, according to all that we have heard with our ears. And what nation in the earth is like thy people? Talking about the 12 tribes of Israel, if thou can say. Even like Israel, talking about the 12 tribes of Israel, whom the Most High went to redeem for a people to himself and to make him a name. You hear that? To make the Most High a name and to do for you great things and terrible for thy land, before thy people, which thou redeemest to thee, to the Most High, from Egypt, from the nations and their gods and their powers. You see? This humility. And showing what the Most High done. So from there, let's look at 1 Chronicles 17. 1 Chronicles 17 and 16. 1 Chronicles 17 and 16. And David the king came and sat before the Most High and said, Who am I, O Most High Power? And what is mine house, what is my family, that thou hast brought me hitherto? See? So it's the same story we just read. So the Most High speak once, yea, twice, man perceive it not. So you see the same thing that he's saying. And yet, this was a small thing in thine eyes, O Most High, but thou hast also spoken of thy servant's house for a great while to come, and hast regarded me according to the estate of a man of high degree, O Most High. What can David speak more to thee for the honor of thy servant? For thou knowest thy servant, so you know me, O Most High, for thy servant's sake, and according to thine own heart, own mind, hast thou done all this greatness in making known all these great things. O Most High, this what works. O Most High, there is none like thee, neither is there any power beside thee, according to all that we have heard with our ears. See? Now from there, we're going to look at Psalms. Now we got to go to 1 Chronicles 29. And 1 Chronicles 29. We're looking at humility. Now I know some of you probably can't really relate to it because you're too prideful. And if you got this spirit of pride in you, you're going to probably dismiss it as, I ain't got to listen to that. But hopefully, one of these scriptures you'll hear, it'll touch your spirit to realize there's a balance. Like it's told, we just read in Ecclesiastes, the 3rd chapter, 1 down. Ecclesiastes 3 and 1 down showed us how there's a balance. There's a balance to everything. Up and down, in and out, off and on. You see? Everything is a balance. So we're looking at 1 Chronicles 29 and verse 14. But who am I? Again. And what is my people, that we should be able to offer so willingly after this sort? For all things come of thee, and of thine own have we given thee. But we are strangers before thee, and sojourners, as were all our fathers. Our days on the earth are as a shadow, and there is none abiding. So our days on the earth is like a shadow to the Most High. O Most High Power, all this store that we have prepared to build thee an house for thine holy name cometh of thine hand. It is all thine own. I am also my power, that thou triumph the heart, triumph the mind, and hast pleasure in uprightness, keeping his laws, statutes, commandments, doing what he say do, his rules and regulations. As for me, in the uprightness of mine heart, in the uprightness of my mind, I have willingly offered all these things. And now have I seen with joy thy people, which are present here, and offer willingly unto thee. See, O most high power of Abraham, who had a son named Isaac, who had a son named and of Israel, and who became the forefather of the 12 tribes of Israel. Jacob's name was changed to Israel. He became the forefather of the 12 tribes of Israel. The Most High said, this is my name forever and a memorial to all generations. He's always identified as the power of Abraham, the power of Isaac, and the power of Jacob, or the power of Israel. You see? Our fathers, keep this forever in the imagination of the thoughts of the heart of thy people, and prepare their heart, their mind unto thee. And that's what we're doing now. That's what King Solomon's praying for, you see. And give unto Solomon, King David praying to the Most High for his son Solomon, my son, a perfect heart, perfect mind, to keep thy commandments, thy testimonies, and thy statutes, and to do all these things, and to build the palace for the which I have made provision. He made provision because Most High told David he had too much blood on his hand. He's a warrior. That's when we were singing, David killed tens of thousands. Saul killed thousands, but David killed tens of thousands. But you hear this humility. Who am I? You see? Over and again, he's saying it over and over again. With humility. That's humility. These are examples. This is our forefathers. Go to Psalms. Continue with King David. 73 and Psalm 73 and verse 22. You say, who am I? 73 and 22. We're looking at humility. This is what he said. So foolish was I, King David, and ignorant. I was as a beast before thee. Hear what he said? Oh, so foolish was I, and ignorant, in darkness, not knowing. I was as a beast before thee. See? Nevertheless, I am continually with thee. Thou hast holding me by my right hand. Thou shalt guide me with thy counsel. You get the counsel through the word of the Most High. And afterward, receive me into glory. To glory of the kingdom. He said, whom have I in heaven but thee? And there is none upon earth that I desire beside thee. Nobody on the earth, he said, you desire besides the Most High. My flesh and my heart faileth. Say, my flesh and my heart, his mind faileth. But the Most High is the strength of my heart. The Most High is the strength of his mind. Because he's hearing what he say and he's doing what he say do. He's speaking what he's saying do, what he's hearing the Most High say. And he's doing what he say do. In my portion forever. See. But lo, they that are far from thee, those that are far from the Most High shall perish. You hear that? If you far from the Most High, you don't know how to touch the Most High Spirit to please him, you far from him. Remember, he turned his back on us. He turned his face away from us. And the nations know this. The heathen know this. Because we broke his laws, statutes, commandments. We sinned against him. That's why these nations been in power. He said that we do what he said do, he's going to put us above all nations. That's the kingdom right now. That's to come. Because we've been under captivity, slavery, and bondage under mostly all these nations. Understand, overstand this. But he said, for lo, they that are far from thee shall perish. All you that don't know how to touch the Most High, all you that don't know how to be able to allow him to be a part of your life, you're going to perish. If he's far from you, you're going to perish. Thou hast destroyed all them that go a-whoring from thee. That means you're dealing with idolatry. You done found some other way. Besides following the Most High power of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, rules and regulations. Fearing him. Having faith in him. You're going to perish. But it is good for me to draw near to the Most High. It's good for us to draw near to the Most High. Oh, you're going to perish. I have put my trust in the Most High power of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, that I may declare all thy works. The Most High like to be boasted on. Enough people talking about him. He need to be boasted on. He brag about him. Give him all praise and glory. Not yourself. That's why Mashiach Shai said, he that exalted himself shall be abased. You're going to be brought down. You're going to perish. But he that humbled himself shall be exalted. That's that balance, isn't it? Better hear what he's saying. And know when you got to apply this. Time for everything. This part you better get. Because y'all coming to the truth and you act like you superior. Superior over who? In what way? Most High say he hate a poor man that's prideful. Pride is hateful before man and the Most High says. So you figure it out. Hear what he's saying to change. Psalms 131 and 1. Most High. My heart, meaning his mind, is not haughty. See? That's the spirit. It's not prideful. Nor my eyes lofty. I mean, King David, everybody exalted King David. But what did he say about himself? You're getting all this exaltation from the people. And what did he say about himself? O Most High, my heart, which is his mind, is not haughty, nor mine eyes lofty. He ain't dealing with no pride. Neither do I exercise myself in great matters or in things too high for me. Then you know it's a time and place for everything. Certain things too high, you had to go to someone else. Like with us. Some things you can't answer, you got to go to someone else. Be willing to say, I don't know. That's what he's saying. Some things I don't know. It's too high for me.